Hello and welcome to the Secular Homeschool Revolution. I am your host, Ashley. I am so grateful that you're here. Welcome back. This is episode 19, and we are going to discuss how to plan your homeschooling year out using the backwards plan method. That is what I use, and hopefully it's a tool you can use for your homeschooling year. Next, I like to give you guys like a podcast update, a life update. With my podcast, I made it to July, like from January to July. I am still here showing up for something I was passionate about. It means I was showing up for myself. If you've been following along, you know I didn't initially share my podcast with anybody. So February is the first time I checked my analytics, and I had 10 followers of people I didn't know because, again, I didn't share my podcast with anybody. And that was 10 people who were interested in what I had to say. That was a huge deal for me. As it sits for July, I've had some growth that I'm very proud of. I have about 115 followers now. My episodes have been listened to over 1,200 times at this point. So thank you. I have a relatively new YouTube channel. It's up 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. I have 22 followers, so there's growth there. I'm forever grateful for any growth. Thank you. And thank you for those who have liked and shared my content. It has been amazing with some of the comments that I've received and like DMs. And I do think it's true. I saw a meme the other day. It's like whenever you start something, it's never like your people or the people you think that will support you. It's always the strangers. And like a lot of people in my circle do support me, but there's so many that aren't. And I'm getting so much love from people I don't know in Australia and New England and California and Canada that are rooting me on. I've had people in my DMs on my Instagram, secular_homeschool_revolution, who are like, hey girl, how's Parker doing from her surgery recovery? Or you haven't posted anything on IG, get to posting. We want to see more of you. My inner circle, besides like my mom and my aunts, if you are on my social media, if you see like Virginia, Patricia, Adela, those are my mom and my aunts always cheering me on, but other people besides them. So I feel really good. And I think that's going to lead on to like about my life update. So with my life update, I really prioritized me. Every morning for the last 7 days, I've been getting up and I've been stretching for 20 minutes. And, I'm closer to 40 than I am 30 at this point. And I'm stiff. Like it is locking up. And it don't feel good. It's a little worrisome. So I've been finding YouTube videos that are like stretching for beginners. There's not one particular person that I'm in love with yet. So I'm just trying different videos. And my body feels good. So I've been stretching for 20 minutes. Then I've been going outside and getting sun. And I just put my chair in my backyard and I just, in the middle of the backyard, and just get sun. And I think that's like hypes me up for the day. And then I got influenced to make coffee at home, and not like Keurig coffee, instant coffee. I don't know. Instant coffee usually tastes bitter, burnt, gross, disgusting. But then I started seeing reels on Facebook of people making like instant coffees look fancy and beautiful, and they look like they taste good with like all the things that I like. So I tried it a few months ago and it was okay, but I just went all in and I went and got the syrups, I went and got the drizzles, I went and got the healthier creamer, and it looked better earlier, but and I got some pretty glasses, and it's taking me 5 minutes every day to make this coffee for myself. And I like that I'm taking the time to do that for me. And it tastes really good. I've been getting the Juan Valdez instant coffee, and it's usually sold out at my grocery stores up the street. So it's like a hit or miss. I also got a new one, the Nespresso intense coffee. So I'll let you know how that goes. but I've enjoyed pouring into myself and like slowing down to make me a coffee. And it's interesting because like if my kid wanted to do something where like we do smoothies and it takes all of these different pieces and components, I have no problem. But when it came to me, I'm like, oh my God, 5 minutes of my time. And it became like this huge inconvenience for me. And I've stopped, and I don't look at it as an inconvenience, but I look at it as an opportunity to do something for me that I really like. And lastly, I have been writing love letters to myself at night. So in the morning, I've been honoring my body, honoring myself with stretches and sunlight. And then in the evenings, I have been writing love letters to me. So I think the first couple of days, so what started me on it is I'm like on this journey of just like rediscovering me. I definitely prioritized my kids and my husband and what their talents were and what they were good at. And I want to center myself, right? Because I think as a mother and as a wife and, you know, as a parent, you lose yourself. And I want to rediscover me. I want to like find me and recognize me and celebrate me. So that's what the love letter's for. And like the first couple days, I think it was very surface level. Like you did that, girl. Like it was very whatever. But by the third day, I was really, really I forced myself to do some reflection, and I found like I really love my voice. And not the sound of my voice, but just having my voice, because for the longest I was too loud, too aggressive. My tone was disrespectful. Don't you dare ask for anything. Be quiet. You know, you're supposed to be, especially as a kid, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. And that carried with me as an adult. And I knew I wanted to like break through that. And so I was doing it through parenting. But now it's like, okay, you knew what you needed as a kid for your kids to parent differently. But now I'm in this place where I'm like, okay, do it for yourself. Heal from that. Overcome that. And I like my voice, but I definitely in my love letter to myself had to acknowledge why I didn't like myself. And it took me a couple of days to just really work through moments that were really impactful for me. And I like by the 7th day, by last night, I just was like hugging me, and it was very emotional, and I probably could cry if I really, really put myself in that position right now. And so I hope that you take on the challenge of writing love letters to yourself and things that you love about yourself, things that you value, things that you've overcome. So I'm excited that I'm going to continue this journey, because there's just a lot of things, you know, life is life, and that we got to break through and figure out why we're doing the things that we do, or how we do it, or why we chose things or chose people, and like relationships, just not like romantic relationships, even like friendships, because I don't think we acknowledge like the heartbreak sometimes and a friendship, but then realizing that friend was toxic. But you're mourning like those moments, right? But what made you choose a toxic friend? So I encourage you to go on a journey of writing a love letter to yourself. And a side note, if you hear my son in the background, he is having a great time. I'm doing it during the day, so I'm sure you might hear him. He's probably thinking he's Spidey shooting web shooters at his sisters. And I like loud kids. I like that they're sounding like kids. It's like joy, it's fun. So my house is usually really loud during the day because my kids are just always laughing and always cracking jokes. Oh my God. They have the worst knock knock and yo mama jokes. My middle kid discovered yo mama jokes, and my husband, he thinks he's the yo mama joke king. And I'm not a jokester. Like, miss me. I don't want to be the butt of anybody's jokes, but I'll laugh. But they definitely have like room to grow on their, yo mama and knock knock jokes. But let's get into our topic of the day. And then we will dive into Project 2025. Our topic of the day is planning your homeschool year out using the backwards planning method. What is that? So backwards planning is basically the goals you set for your family and you work backwards to make sure you have the steps you need to cover in order to reach your goal. So, for example, goals look different for different families. You could have a goal where you need to finish a curriculum in the X amount of months you plan to homeschool. And then that could even look different. So like if you plan to only do science once a week or twice a week or every other week, or if you're like some families who choose to only do science, like some people only do science in the spring and they'll only do history in the fall. So that'll mess with your time for your goal and what you need to cover with your curriculum. And then some people like to homeschool till they finish the curriculum at a just right pace for their family. So it really just depends on what the goal is for your family. And so you take your end goal and then you're looking at what steps you need to break down and how often you need to break them down till you get to the beginning so you know how to achieve your goal. And I'm going to break down a science curriculum I did for our family so that you can get a better idea of what that looks like. Let me show you. Okay, so now we're going to use an example of what that looks like, starting from your end goal and moving backwards. So we're going to use a science curriculum that has 12 chapters, and we're going to say you're homeschooling for 36 weeks. So we're going to divvy up the 12 chapters within the 36 weeks, and that's going to leave us with one chapter every 3 weeks. So week 1 through 3, you're working on one chapter. Weeks 4 through 6, you're working on chapter 2, so on and so forth. Then we're going to break it down with what that looks like weekly. All right, so now we're going to see what that looks like weekly. In my house, we homeschool 4 days out of the week. And also, you do have to keep in mind, we are homeschooling. So our science classes aren't going to take up the full 60 minutes, 90 minutes like a traditional public school, charter school does. And so and in these chapters, they're broken down into units. So, the first week, you're going to look at unit 1. Day 1, you're going to look at the objective. Day 2, you may do the experiment or the hands-on activity. Day 3 is the breakdown. What did you observe? Was your hypothesis correct? Day 4, it could be I'm trying the experiment again, depending on the curriculum, or watching any videos associated with the curriculum. And then you go into the next week working on unit 2. And that's how you keep on pace to make sure you reach your end of the year goals. But you had to initially start at the end to break down what you needed to do to get to the beginning. And I feel like it feels less overwhelming when you look at it like that. And a lot of curriculums, you can see what's going on in their index on what they need. I know I like to make binders for my kids, and I'll show them to you once I revamp these and they look, less disorganized, because we're at the end and things are pulled and written on. But I will say my kids did ask for Google Calendars or like a digital planner this year, so I think that's something we are going to venture in. I know Kari, my 7-year-old, wants something that'll hook up to her Google, and Parker wants something that'll sync to her phone. I personally like to cross things off, like physically. It makes me feel more motivated. I guess those endorphins are going, right? That I accomplished something. But they want to check a box on some digital device. And so that's a way you could pull your kids in so that they know what they're working on or what to expect. Give them their planners. Let them see what layout, what they need to do. And I think that also helps drive like independent workers and learners, because like in my household, we have multiple kids. So if Parker knows she needs to cover unit 1, well, she can read that. She can read that independently while I assist Kari on writing. So that's another way how you can navigate multiple kids, independent learners, independent workers. And if they know what to expect and you don't have to like lay things out, I think it's a good use of your time and of your day. And some tips that I would encourage you to think about is don't think because you did this planning that you can't be flexible. Please be flexible. I know I'm always adjusting things, but I got all like the heavy lifting out of the way at the beginning. So if I'm just tweaking here and there, then there's not a lot for me to do throughout the year except, change some sentences or say, hey, we got to catch up on this. And that's it. So even if you take like a week or 2 to just do all the heavy lifting with all of your subjects, there's not a lot for you to do throughout the year. So it is worth your time to dig and dig deep and plan and backwards plan with all of your subjects for all your kids, because then it'll be a much more relaxed year and you're not like procrastinating, which is my favorite thing to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. So that can be really helpful, is taking some time throughout the summer instead of like planning as you go. So that would be one tip. And the other tip is just look at the big picture. Like, don't forget why you're homeschooling, the purpose of homeschooling, what your goals are. This definitely will help keep you motivated, and also remind your kids, like, what is our goal? Like, talk to them about it, because kids have goals for themselves and like things they want to accomplish, especially like I don't know, my kids do educationally. And I think maybe it's because we're real goal oriented and we're constantly talking about things and that we want for ourselves or what they want for themselves. And so include them in the conversation, include them in the big picture of why we're doing this. Why are we planning? Why do you have it written in your binder? Why do you have it on your Google Calendar? Because we have goals. And I think if they get in the habit of like checking things off, it will build like self-esteem and they feel proud of the work that they're doing. I know that's a question like, oh, wow, kid A, you did all of your assignments this week. How does that make you feel? And and not to say that they always will have the best attitude doing the work, but when it's at the end of the week, they're like, oh, it feels good. I don't have nothing to catch up on. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is Project 2025. If you don't know about it, Google it, and Google the people who are backing this Project 2025. It is a Heritage Foundation. And yikes, guys, these people, they support a lot of patriotic endeavors. And we know these people who are patriots, what that actually is code word for. And they support a lot of conservative Republican ideologies. And this Project 2025 covers a lot of things. The one I want to discuss is like the education reform. So they want, from me explaining it to you guys, from what I'm understanding, is they want the education to be wider because it's already whitewashed and they want it to be wider. They want it to be more conservative. They want more religion into the curriculum, like this whole division of like church and state. They're like, peace out, it's not necessary. And so how that can impact us as homeschoolers is if these mandates happen, they could mandate, depending on where you live, to have less diversity, less inclusion in your homeschooling curriculums, and even sprinkle some religion in there. And I homeschool so that I can offer my kids a diverse and inclusive education. And not everyone can homeschool. There are a lot of people who work who wish they could homeschool their kids. And we have relatives who have kids in school, right? I think this is a good time for us to advocate for each other's kids and make sure that we do what we need to do, that this doesn't pass. I know I was like in some discussion groups with like homeschoolers and they're saying, well, that's not going to impact me, or, that's for public school kids. Well, no. Like I said, there could be mandates that pass that could try to force us as homeschoolers, especially secular and progressive homeschoolers, to have less diversity in our curriculum. And I mean, we know we can have these other conversations with our kids, but this shouldn't be law. This shouldn't be legal. So let's advocate for our own kids. Let's advocate for our neighbors' kids. Let's advocate for each other's. Keep your local representatives and politics on your radar, because Project 2025 is going to set us back. Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. I hope you find joy in the little things, and you remember to pour into yourself and whatever that looks like. And also keep Project 2025 on your radar. This is an election year. It could be very detrimental to a lot of people, and we need to do what we can. And lastly, I hope that backwards planning is something that you can use in your homeschooling journey. I hope that it can make planning for the year feel less overwhelming. But until next time, thank you for joining us on the Secular Homeschool Revolution. I hope you keep revolutionizing your education. Oh, and please like, follow, share on YouTube or Spotify, and like my Instagram. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.